Here.
Thanks.
Commissioner McCabe.
Here.
Commissioner Fernandez let me know he would not be able to make it today. And Commissioner Scoggin.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Next is the approval of the agenda. Any additional changes to the agenda? Any objections to approval of the agenda as written? Hearing and seeing none, the agenda is approved. Lacey, could you do the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Our first order of business is the election of a new chair and vice chair. That brings us to the election of the chair and vice chair. Do we have any nominations?
I'd like to nominate C.J. Cone, Chairman Glenn.
I second that nomination.
Vice chair? Oh. Go ahead.
So this is Alex Strawn, Planning Director. So you'll ask for discussion, and then if there's any objection.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Is there any discussion on the? Any objections? Hearing and seeing none, that C.J. Cone will remain chair. We now need a nomination for the vice chair.
Commissioner McCabe, I nominate Doug Glenn.
I'll second that nomination. Is there any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, is there any objection? Congratulations, Doug. You're now vice chair. Now we move on to the consent agenda. Reading the consent agenda is highlighted. Meetings of the regular meeting minutes, December 16th, 2024. Introduction to public hearing, quasi-judicial matters, there are none to introduce. Introduction of public hearing, legislative matters, there are none to introduce. Committee reports, there are none. Agency reports, Safe Streets for All Comprehensive Safety Plan update.
Mr. Chair, if I could interject for a moment. So you'll want to ask if there's any discussion or objection to adopting the consent agenda. Yeah. Okay. Well, you'd moved on.
Is there any consent or excuse me, my first time on this one. Is there any objection or discussion on is there any discussion on the consent agenda? No. Is there anyone that disagrees? No. So what's that? Okay, we approve the consent agenda. Okay, we're on to agency reports then.
So, yeah, so this is Safe Streets for All Comprehensive Safety Action Plan update. Staff member is Jamie Taylor, and I think we have a contractor to deliver a presentation. Oh, you went, yeah.
Oh, whoops, there we go. Okay. Always the simple things that get me. Thanks everyone. My name's Joni Wilm. I am a consultant with Michael Baker Engineering, Michael Baker International. And I'm here today to talk to you about the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan. And we're working closely with Jamie Taylor at Matanuska-Susitna to manage this plan. And it's been about an 8 to 9 month process. And we're here at the tail end with an actual plan to show you. A pretty impressive document that was created in that amount of time. So I was going to come and present early in January when this plan was in public review, but there was a lot of ice on the roads and I think the meeting got canceled. So I'm going to present the same presentation with just a few change slides. So let's see.
So shoot it towards me.
Shoot towards you. Turned it on. Oh,
There it goes.
there we go. Okay, so this is the plan. So it's up here. It's 300 and something pages. It is available now for public review. It was up for public comment through January 19th and got posted on, I believe, the 20th of December. So a little over almost 4 weeks. So we had it up for public comment. And to go to look at this plan, you can go on the project website, which is ss4a.matsu.gov.us. And I'm just here to talk to you today a little bit about the plan chapters and what's included. The whole point of coming before you is to hopefully get your consent and approval to take it on to the assembly so that we can adopt it and use it to hopefully apply for more SS4A grant funding to do safety improvements in your community. But just going briefly through the plan chapters, these are the chapters. There's 8 chapters, and I want to point out that these chapters follow specifically the SS4A checklist. So when you would use this plan to apply for future grants, all you have to do is go in each chapter and find the information that you need to then put into the grant application. So we try to make it as simple as possible. So first chapter is all about leadership and commitment of this area to commit to improving safety on your roads. And so in this chapter is an overview of the project study area. It explains the safe system approach, which is the federal approach that DOT has also adopted to improve safety on roads. And then also talks about the commitment that the Matsu Borough engaged in to commit to a 3.5% annual reduction in fatalities and serious injuries in your area. Chapter 2 is all about the planning structure and includes the safety action plan team. This was a group of advisory people that served on the committee to oversee the plan that we engaged with at 5 separate meetings throughout the plan. We also include details of their comments in the plan. It also includes the plan process, what we did for outreach, schedule, meetings, and plan adoption. Chapter 3 includes an overview of the existing conditions and peer review analysis that was conducted. This was a very comprehensive data-driven analysis where we looked at crash data, we looked at crash types, crash circumstances. We also included a peer city review of 11 different cities of similar size and climate to look at what they were doing to improve safety in their communities and trying to carry some of those actions forward here as well. And then chapter 4 is all about the engagement that we use. So reaching out to the community, we had a lot of different engagement tactics that we deployed. First was a project website. We had extensive stakeholder outreach. We did a survey, a safety survey. You may have remembered I was here before talking about that. We had over 912 responses, so great turnout. And we had additional planning meetings, focus groups, 2 virtual public workshops, and then we also just did open houses. That was last week. So we did 3 open houses, 1 in Houston, 1 in Wasilla, and 1 in Palmer. 6 pop-up events, and then multiple presentations to agencies to get the word out and get their input. And a lot of also outreach via social media and online and news publications. Chapter 5 is all about the equity analysis. This is a key piece in the SS4A program. So if you can show that your area has a transportation equity issue, as in like the cost of transportation might be too high, there might be not enough choices for transportation, or maybe people just feel unsafe driving, walking, riding their bike, riding an ATV. It helps with the grant application and makes your chances of getting future funding that much better. So the equity section is all in Chapter 5 and explains what we looked at there. Chapter 6 is all about what we can do to help improve safety through policy and process changes. So we have outlined a list of potential policies that the Matsu Borough can look at adopting or changing, or recommendations for moving forward to improve safety in your community. We also include a safety toolkit, which outlines a bunch of different countermeasures that you can use to improve safety depending on what the safety concern is. And then Chapter 7 outlines our process for selecting projects. So there are 16 projects that are recommended in this plan. And Chapter 7, if you're interested in how any of those projects were selected, we outline the whole strategy in Chapter 7, explain that. And it is made up of these bulleted points here, which is looking at what projects were on the high injury network, what their risk profiles were, where they were, and then outlines priority projects in terms of near-term, mid-term, and long-term implementation. And then finally, Chapter 8 is really about, it says progress and transparency, but it's really about how we can set the Matsu Borough up to implement this plan. So we have an implementation matrix. It outlines the action, a clear action to take. It outlines what policy that relates to in the plan, and then who our suggested partners are for you to work with to implement that action. So, and then also lastly, how you can keep track of how you're doing in the Matsu Borough as far as improving safety by using the data dashboard that we created. Also looks at performance measures and targets, and then how you can update the safety plan. And if you haven't already, I was here earlier this year to talk about this. This is still up on the website. It's the public workshop number 2. It's a really good virtual tour through all of our data dashboard, safety data, Safe Streets for All. So it's great. It's interactive and easy to engage with. So I encourage you to check that out. And then here's a list of kind of what's coming up next. So public comment closed on January 19th. We have assembled all the comments in a public comment response table. We will be coming to you, the Matsu Borough will be coming to you in February for a public hearing where you will be able to, to Planning Commission, where you will be able to see all the public comments we received and the responses, and either approve or disapprove any of those comments or responses. You can, I talked about the open houses. So after that, we'll be going to the Assembly for their review and approval. And then we're hoping to get the plan adopted by March so that we can apply or help you apply for those SS4A grant applications in April. So the deadline we think will be end of April as it was in 2024. So that is what we're hoping to achieve. And then that's it. That's my presentation. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think we have any questions.
Oh, well, great. Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure. And yeah, please feel free to reach out to myself or Jamie if you do have any questions later. And I'll turn this off.
Next, we'll go to audience participation for anything that's not scheduled for tonight's hearing. Is there anyone on the phone? Nothing. We'll wait, give Lacey. There's no one, well, there's one on the phone. What's that? Cool. You can go ahead. Whoever's on the phone can.
Yes, hello. Can you hear? Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, my name is Per Peterson. I live in Anchorage. My name Pedersen, and the first name is Per Per. I own a cabin at mile 133 near the hotel. I'm speaking only for myself.
Excuse me, sir. This is
Yes.
we'll be here talking about the now.
Oh, you're still dealing with the safety thing.
Yeah, we're not at the RV park yet. I'm guessing that's where you're heading.
Yes. Sorry.
Yep. Okay. Next, just in a minute. Thank you. We can close audience participation then. If there's no one else on anyone in the audience? No objections? Close it. Next, we'll move on to the public hearing quasi judicial matters. So I want to read this memorandum. Read the. Okay. The resolution to be heard is Resolution 24-33, a conditional use permit in accordance with Matsu Borough 17.17 Denali State Park Special Land Use District for the construction and operation of an RV campground resort within the park's boundaries. The site is located at milepost 135.7, 4852 North Parks Highway, tax ID number uniform 0499800 Lima 02-4. Applicant Tim Allen, PE for First Colony Developers. Staff is Peggy Horton, current planner. Now we'll go to the. In order to ensure a fair process on planning commission decisions, the following shall be read by the chair after the resolution title and before each quasi-judicial case is heard based on Matsu Borough 15.08.150 conflict of interest ex parte contact. First one, do you or any members of your immediate family have a substantial financial interest in any property affected by this decision, or will you recognize a foreseeable profit as a result of this decision? And then we have someone on the phone though, right? CJ?
No, I don't.
No. Hearing and seeing none? Have you received or otherwise engaged in ex parte contact with the applicant, appellant, or interest parties or members of the public concerning this application either before, during, or after this matter was submitted for decision?
Commissioner McCabe, I haven't had any interaction with anybody over it, but I was on a phone call listening to the Trapper Creek Community Council when they started talking about it. I turned my volume all the way down, so it may have appeared I was on the call, but I was not listening to what they were talking about. Same thing at the Big Lake Community Council meeting. They just mentioned that there was going to be a hearing, and I left the room.
CJ?
No.
Okay, the final one. Are you able to be impartial in your decision making? CJ?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I guess at this time I'd like to invite staff to proceed with the report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Peggy Horton, current planner with Development Services Division. I'm pleased to provide the Commission with an overview of the staff report for Resolution 24-33, which can be found on page 208 of your packet. The Commission postponed the hearing for PC Resolution 24-33 from December 16th, 2024 to January 6th, 2025 due to concerns regarding public notice. The planning director made the decision to cancel the January 6th meeting due to weather and dangerous road conditions. During the postponement, the applicant updated the conditional use permit application with additional information concerning the helipad and a bear awareness policies. The staff also provided the Planning Commission with more in-depth findings to support our recommendations. We think you'll find them helpful in your decision-making process. The Special Land Use District incorporates all of Denali State Park. All commercial uses within the park, and therefore within this district, require a conditional use permit. This proposal focuses on utilizing the southern half of an 85-acre parcel of land, developing it in phases. Planned amenities include RV campsites with hookups, cabins, tent sites, a convenience store, gift shop, a viewing deck, and tour bus parking. Additionally, there are plans for a future ramp to the Chulitna River and a heliport to accommodate a third-party helicopter tour provider. Before I continue, I need to address one of the conditions of approval. In the staff report, I recommended placing restrictions on helicopter flight paths and establishing time of day limitations. However, upon further review, it was determined that the regulation of flight patterns and time of day flights are matters for which the regulation is likely preempted by federal law. As a result, Borough likely lacks the authority to place and enforce such conditions on the permit. Staff recommends removing condition number 6 from the resolution accordingly. This can be found on the bottom of page 226 of your packet. I want to make it clear that I'm not recommending the condition remove the helipad from the amenities the applicant is allowed to install on the property. However, that is up to the Planning Commission. Within the staff report are findings describing the distance from the helipad to the Parks Highway, the RV camping area within this resort, and to the nearby state campground, Kasugi Ken. Also described is the existing visual screening of the helipad from the Parks Highway. Recent comments from Stuart Leidner of the Alaska Department of Natural Resources, Division of Parks and Outdoor Rec, state there are no current FAA flight restrictions within Denali State Park, although that could change in the future. He also noted that landing within the state park is not allowed on state lands without a permit, and a permit would only be allowed for specific purposes, not for commercial operations. Mr. Leidner corrected information in the applicant's narrative concerning bear monitoring, which is done by the Alaska Department of Fish and Game, not the state park law enforcement rangers. It is also noted that a requirement to obtain a permit to access the Chulitna River, which the applicant was already planning for. Besides removing condition number 6, I have two findings that should be modified due to DNR's comments. Staff recommends modifying the first line of the finding in fact at the bottom of page 221 of the packet, which would replace the word park with the word operation. It would then read, according to the application material, the operation would implement a bear awareness program that includes informational pamphlets and briefings at the check-in station for all visitors, detailing requirements for food and garbage storage to minimize attraction to bears. Staff recommends modifying the second finding of fact on the top of page 222 by removing its second sentence. The second sentence had to deal with the who manages wildlife in the park. So by modifying it, the whereas would read, according to the application material, staff will be trained to handle encounters with bears or any other wildlife in the area. I also recommend adding an additional finding due to Mr. Leidner's comments from DNR, making it clear that this property is owned by an individual, not the state. recommend adding an additional whereas that states, whereas, according to the application material, subject property is owned by Yolanda Doyen, a private individual. So during the public notice process, we sent out notices to owners of properties within the U.S. Survey 4998, which this property is a part of, and the owners of property within 600 feet, as directed by MSB 1703020. It turned out that 2 of these properties were owned by the same person, and one of the notices was sent to the owner of the subject parcel. So the day after the Planning Commission postponed that hearing on December 17th, we mailed notices to owners of property within 3.5 miles of the subject parcel. This enabled all the owners of private inholdings within the southern portion of Denali State Park to receive a notice. Staff mailed 92 notices to property owners on December 17th. We updated the application material on the borough website for public review on December 20th. The Frontiersman published the public notice on their October 25th, 2024 issue. Staff emailed the public notice and a request for comments to borough offices and outside agencies, including the Alaska Department of Natural Resources, Division of Parks and Outdoor Recreation, Denali State Park on October 24th of 2024. Staff also emailed the public notice and a request for comments to the members of the following community councils on December 19th. The Chase, Trapper Creek, Talkeetna, Susitna, Willow, Big Lake, and Meadow Lakes. Staff included all the comments received are in your packet or in the handout folder. The majority of the comments received were opposed to the use of helicopters in this area. Between December 7th and January 17th, we received 103 comments. 1 was in support of the application as is. 2 had concerns about the driveway location being unsafe and unpermitted. 2 objections due to the development being too big and undermining the character of the state park. 3 objections for the campground, as there is already enough places to camp in the area. 3 concerns about the proposed water launch to the Chulitna River. 3 concerns about the applicant not having the other permits required for this facility. 4 objections due to the perceived lack of bear safety program. And 102 of those were opposed to the use of helicopter tours. The reasons for those objections were the noise, visual impact of helicopters, helicopters disturbing wildlife, helicopters detracting from value, character, and integrity of the Denali State Park, helicopters being incompatible with the state park, helicopters providing a negative impact on visitors, quiet places needing protection, the destruction of tranquility, the need to preserve natural soundscapes, places of quiet recreation are needed. Staff did receive comments from the Talkeetna Community Council requesting more time to respond. And they received a bit more time, but I don't think enough for for what they wanted. So staff is recommending approval, removing condition number 6 from the resolution and modifying the 2 findings of fact, and then adding that last finding of fact that I mentioned. And I'd be glad to repeat that later on if you want. Staff recommends approving the conditional use permit to construct and operate an RV campground resort at 4852 North Parks Highway. Staff finds the operation meets the standards for a conditional use permit in MSB 1717 Denali State Park Special Land Use District. And I'm available for questions.
So this would be a good time to ask questions for staff and then give the applicant a chance.
Just staff, any questions for Peggy?
Of those 100 and some odd messages you received, how many of them were duplicates? Or by the
By
same
duplicates,
person?
you mean by the same person?
Yeah.
I believe there are about 4.
CJ, you have any comments? She's still with us?
No, not at this time, thanks.
Okay. At this time, I guess we'd like to invite the applicant if they have any additional information they'd like to add.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Planning Commission. My name is Tim Alley. I'm with the Boutte Company. I'm the civil engineer hired by First Colony Developers and Yolanda to help with the civil site designing, permitting for the Arc at Denali. The Arc at Denali is a private commercial campground at 100 milepost 135.7 of the Parks Highway. We are currently planning 40 camper sites, along with 14 duplex cabins and tent camping sites, a convenience store, and a food concession area. The site enters off of the Parks Highway. There's also a turnaround. The intent there is to have ability to park tour buses, to have potential for tourists off of either cruise ships or what have you, traveling through the area, stop in there, potentially get food or something like that at the convenience store, use a bathroom, also potentially get an excursion out onto a helicopter for a flight seeing tour, potentially. And then exiting off of that, will be a entrance kiosk with a gate to admit people into the recreational camping area and the campsites, tent sites. Per what Peggy said about the boat launch there, it will have to be open to the public. We will need a permit with DNR State Parks, and we're planning to do that. And so that will be open for people to park on the site and use the boat launch, as well as the camping facilities if they pay for them. The site was originally, or previously, prior to Yolanda purchasing it, used as a gravel pit and was left in kind of a state of disarray. There's been some bad erosion there. Things have been falling apart a little bit. And so we're excited to get in there and get that cleaned up, as well as construct this RV campground. The existing driveway is going to be realigned to match up with the Kazuchi-Ken driveway across the street, across the highway, I should say. And it also will have to be permitted by the Department of Transportation and get concurrence from federal highways, because this is an interstate we're accessing. So we are anticipating on having to cross a big hurdle there. There'll also be viewing decks, a gazebo facing the Chulitna River and towards Mount McKinley, trying to take advantage of all the views there. The intent is to have this site open between October and May, or sorry, I should say May to October for camping and RV, as the RV campsites as well as the tent camping sites will be open that long. The cabins will be open year round for Northern Lights viewing, that kind of thing. The upper parking lot will be open during the winter months for parking, mainly for winter activities, snow machining, what have you, skiing, and that kind of recreation. There will be staff on site year round. The convenience stores intend to be open 8 to 8 roughly year round. Hours might fluctuate a bit depending on demand, I suppose, and the amount of people that come in there, especially during the winter. and so they will have staff out there year round to monitor anything that comes up on the site. The helicopter pad is intended for potential for tours. We do not have a contractor on board for that. It'll be a third-party contractor that will be hired. We're estimating that there'll be one tour per hour, or estimating a maximum, I should say, of one tour per hour. So that'd be 8 hours per day, 9 to 5. So 8 tours per day maximums we're asking for. That's a threshold, not a goal. We don't anticipate it to be more than that. We're not even sure if we're going to have demand at that high. But we would like to have the ability to have the helicopter pad there to allow for dropping off passengers or picking up passengers with tour bus activities. There's also potential for having about 1,000 gallons of fuel there to refuel a helicopter in that case. There are, just a quick Google search, we found at least five operators that are currently flying helicopters into Denali State and National Park. There's currently 2 airstrips that are within 2 miles south of our project. So I don't see this being a different use, I suppose, than what's currently enjoyed in the park area. And that's part of the reason we're proposing it. We are planning for a pedestrian bridge to get over to the Tin site. This helps separate it out from the rest of the campground, give it a little bit more character by itself away from the RV camping area and the cabins. That pedestrian bridge does cross an unnamed creek that is an anadromous water body, and so we will be getting a permit with the Department of Fish and Game for that crossing. And then again, the access down to the Chulitna River. We are going to verify our boundaries and where they line up with the Chulitna River. If we have to cross we're required to get a state permit for access to the river. So we're going to do that. There may be some issues with an easement would require public access as well, which we don't have no problem granting. So we intend to allow people to use the access to the Chulitna River. It will be limited to foot traffic, no trailers going down in there. We don't want motorized boats. We're looking at inflatable rafts, kayaks to be used down there that are appropriate. Anything that is appropriate to be used on the Chulitna River. The site will have bear-proof trash receptacles as well as dumpsters that'll be up. The dumpster will be located up closer to the convenience store. So it'll be a little bit more monitored by the staff, but then, the trash cans will be emptied daily as needed. They will have a pamphlet and briefing as people check in to camp at the site for bear awareness and to make sure that proper protocols are being followed. Yeah, other than that, I appreciate your time considering this, and I welcome any questions that you may have.
Does anybody have any questions? CJ? No?
No, I don't have anything.
Guess we're good. At this time, I'd like to open up the public hearing on Resolution 23-24. If there's anyone on the phone that would like to speak to resolution, please press pound 3. But at this time, let's start over here again. At this time, we'd like to open public hearing to Resolution 24-33. Yeah, please push star 3 if you're on the phone. No. We ready? Okay, if you're on the phone, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, I'm not sure if they told me my line was unmuted, so I assume that I'm the one supposed to speak now.
You're good.
I have a couple My name is Christy Helgen. I own property in the Denali View subdivision or association down by the Princess. I've lived there. I've had a cabin there since 1997. Anyway, I have a couple issues. One about the helicopters. It seems like a lot of people are opposed. I agree. To me, when I read the little thing, it seemed like it was somewhat misrepresented, saying that the primary intended use of the helicopter pad is for emergencies. I don't have any problem with that, but then they went into great length about, helicopter tours, and I think that would be very disruptive, even if it's along the river where people are rafting and canoeing or whatever. So that's a concern of mine. My other big concern is fire danger. And maybe I didn't read it all, but it didn't seem like they really talked about whether there's going to be any fire pits, whether campers or cabin people or whatever are going to be able to have little campfires. I have a big concern in terms of what the education would be of that. I've lived up at my property or been up at my property long enough to experience the Miller's Reach fire, the Sockeye fire, and the McKinley fire twice, not being able to get back down to Anchorage because of fires and because of how quickly the wind can pick up and get fires out of control. One of my big things is, I think, in terms of just like Bear Aware, what's the education? What's the aware of fire danger? Also, I would strongly recommend that during the summer that the managers have a water truck available to put out any fire that might get away from the area, especially if the wind picks up. So I hope that they would seriously consider that. You mentioned, the person who just spoke mentioned 5 operators in the state park, 2 airstrips within 2 miles. I'm assuming I know those 2 airstrips, maybe not, but I believe both of them are private. Can you correct me on that, whoever spoke last? I mean, we have an airstrip in our little association or close to us, owned by K&T Enterprises, and it's a private airstrip. It's not available to the public. So I just wanted to express that.
Yep, you're out of time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
This is Alex Strawn, Plan Director. Oh, I was hoping she'd spell her last name for the record, but please.
Helgen. Okay. Helgen, Helgen. My first name is Christy, Kristi.
Thank you.
Okay, we're ready for the next one on the phone.
Thank you. My name is Leslie Torrance. That's LeslieTorrence. And I'm a neighbor of Christie's. And I also have concerns about the fire rings themselves. I believe I saw that there were going to be fire rings in the tent camp areas. And I think that, or my opinion is that the fire rings are an invitation for maybe campers who aren't fire aware visiting the area to have a campfire. And so that either there's a way to get the campfire rings out of there when it's dry, or to not promote the campfire issue when it's summer out. Maybe in the wintertime when they have the snow machine guys there, they could have fires. But that's a big concern of mine because people see a fire ring, they're not aware of the situation, and they just got to have a fire. So, and then the access or availability of some kind of fire truck, or even putting a fire station at this area would be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else online? One more?
Yes, hello, this is Per Peterson. Again, I'm trying to not be quite so impatient.
Could I ask you to
So
spell your first and last name, please?
Yes, my first name is P-E-R, and the last name is Peterson, P-E-D-E-R-S-E-N. And I own a property in the same neighborhood as the two previous speakers. I have several concerns, and I agree with their concerns. I want to bring two of them to your attention. And one is the helicopter pad, and I agree with Christy about the emergency use. I have no particular objection. But to fly helicopters in and out of this location as suggested in the application, I think is in direct violation of the general standards for the park, especially points 1 and 3. And I think it will detract from the experience, not only from the ARC users, but from Kasugi Ken users and others, certainly hikers on Turtle Ridge and others. I'm strongly against that. The other concern that I don't think has been voiced is light pollution. I think one of the attractive features of this area is that it is dark, so you could see stars and you could see Northern Lights well and all this. So with old campers and lights 24/7, I think that is a problem. It could probably be mitigated by using directed light and those kind of things to reduce that impact. So I think that should be part of the conditions for approval. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, is there anyone else? One more? Ready?
Hello, good evening. My name is Jeff Schultz, Jeffschultz. I'm a professional photographer in Alaska for the last 45 years and currently live in Palmer. And I'm for this ARC going through. I do photo tours and workshops the last 10, 12 years. And that particular area is just absolutely stunning for photography. Done a lot of tours up there, but there's not a lot of commercial opportunity up there for my guests to stay. Obviously, there's the Princess Lodge, but that's the Princess. It's not an Alaskan kind of a feel. I believe the ARC is much more of an Alaskan kind of a feel, especially appreciate the idea of the cabins that'll be there. It obviously is a stunning view. So I'm just for it. I've been to that location many times. And it would just be nice to have an actual legitimate opportunity to use that area. So I'm for it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. We good on the phone for a minute? Okay. Now we'll go to the audience participation, and here we go. Sharon. Thank you very much. You'll have to spell that for Lacey. Yes, please.
My name is Sharon Hekimovich. It's S-H.
Ma'am, can you turn your mic on for us, please?
Sorry. S-H-A-R-O-N. Last name is Hekimovich. H-E-C-I-M-O-V-I-C-H. And I'm here to represent and defend Denali State Park. I have been a resident of Denali State Park for 45 years. I own my property since 1980, and I am within 2 miles of the proposed site. I would like to I should also say I am one that has the airstrip. And it is private, it is registered with the FAA, it is restricted, which means you have to get my permission to land there. And for the last 10, 15 years, it is mostly always emergency landings, very few landings on there, but it is private, always has been since the early 1960s. Alrighty. I'd like to point out a few facts. First of all, anyone can write and glorify all they want on a magnificent plan for business, but the ramifications can be extreme to the environment, life, and Denali State Park itself. Where are the studies? Are any being done? Here are some of the dangers of granting a conditional use permit in that area. The environment. There is no mention of Denali State Park being on the Denali Fault Earthquake Zone, which is Alaska's largest fault line. In 2002, there was a 7.9 earthquake, which was the strongest ever recorded in the interior Alaska. It was extreme in Denali State Park. Many of us experienced it. This only proves how fuel tanks, wastewater systems on this unstable ground could end in disaster. And they can say they can fix the unstable ground, but will it really be fixed? Who's going to monitor that? What's underneath it? A lot of us locals have seen what has gone on that piece of property. Tremors and large shakers frequent this area often. There is no mention of all 5 species of salmon that travel up the Chulitna River to the rivers to spawn. And, oh gosh, I only have 55 seconds? Crap. Anyway, that provides, to me, a very major problem, especially the creek that is going through their property that they want to propose, because you have people coming in, a magnitude of people, campers. Who's going to monitor that spawning stream going through that property will not be detrimental to their life with bears, wolves, and everything else that feed on these salmon? The air traffic, this is a major flyway between Anchorage and Fairbanks. The aircraft flies low following the Chulitna River and also the Parks Highway. We do not need a helicopter crisscrossing over, going to the mountain to do their scenic tours. Road traffic, this is the busiest, one of the busiest roads in Alaska, the main thoroughfare between Anchorage and Prudhoe Bay. We do not need people going in and out with the traffic, so. I guess I can't finish. Maybe that's a good thing, but thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Next is Joe Richardson.
It's Joe Richardson, JoeRichardson. All right, I live at mile 134.5 Parks Highway in Denali State Park. I've been there full-time since 1997. I also own Mary's McKinley View Lodge, and I am the closest neighbor to this proposed development. And I'm not here to speak against the development as a whole, just the provision that would allow for helicopter flight seeing. Park Superintendent Stuart Liedner has stated that helicopter operations are incompatible within the park as a designated wilderness. Helicopter flight seeing would violate so many of the goals and objectives outlined in the 2006 Denali State Park Management Plan that there isn't enough time to go through all of it here. Sound is measured in decibels and is logarithmic like the Richter scale. A level of 30 decibels is considered average for a quiet rural area. Federal guidelines identify 55 decibels as a threshold for interference with outdoor activities in rural homes and schools. Bell J2A helicopter hovering at 100 feet has a decibel rating of 100, and in the same way, a magnitude 8 earthquake is not as strong as a magnitude 4, is not twice as strong as a magnitude 4. A reading of 100 decibels is not twice the disturbance level threshold of 55 decibels. It is 100,000 times over it. The application states that flights will be between 9 a.m. and 5 a.m., with a maximum of 1 per hour, but that ignores the fact that there are 2 parts to each flight, so that would be 16 flights per day. And that is a level of noise that is completely at odds with the wilderness character of the area, and helicopter flight seeing would have an entirely negative impact over a very large space and affect thousands of recreational users who seek out Denali State Park, specifically and at least partially because it is quiet and mostly undisturbed. Denali State Park is not an easy place to live, but the very few of us who are there find the rewards more than make up for the hardships. We haven't worked so hard and dedicated ourselves so completely to this place for decades in order to be subjected to unavoidable noise 16 times a day all summer long. And I really doubt that thousands of visitors who come to Denali State Park for its quiet and wildness will find their trip has been enhanced by the sound of a helicopter echoing around for miles. And for these reasons and others, I am respectfully requesting the Planning Commission deny the conditional use permit for Arc at Denali until the helicopter sightseeing provision is removed or modified and clarified with input from people who actually live in the area. Thanks very much.
The next is Ruth Wood.
Hi, I'm Ruth Wood. I live in Talkeetna, and I'm here.
Could you spell
I was here.
I
Can you hear me?
Spell your first
Oh,
and
sorry.
last name, please. Thank you.
Ruth, I have it written down. I thought they could read it. Ruth, R-U-T-H, Wood, W-O-O-D, no S. Okay, I live in Talkeetna, but my heart spends a lot of time in Denali State Park. It is a jewel. I don't know how many of you have ever been there, but it is incredible. And I came to the December meeting. I had the pleasure of meeting Tim Alley and Yolanda and talking to them a little bit. I have seen some of the ways that their proposal got defined better in what they replied. I think they are trying to do a good job, but you cannot have helicopters taking off across the street from Kasugi Ken campground and flying who knows where. Straight up along the ridge or out to the river, along the Chulitna River. Those places are used by Alaska residents, Alaska visitors, and helicopters make a lot of noise. Helicopters fly over my house frequently, but not several times a day, not every hour on the hour. They talk about screened from the park's highway, but when you go to Denali State Park, you're not on the park's highway. You're either walking up or down or along the ridge. You are high. Helicopters are up probably at the same level you are, and they're traveling for a long time. They travel slowly and they make a lot of noise. If the only thing you can do is take that helipad out of this development, you can approve everything else and I'd be okay. I think there is definitely demand for more camping, more cabins in that area, and I know that because I camp and I rent cabins at Kasugi Ken, and they're full all summer long. So that's a great idea, but don't ruin it for the rest of us by having helicopters. And I have a friend who has helicopter he operates out of Talkeetna. Most of his business is flying materials out to somebody's cabin or flying out to the cabin. And I want to watch my time because I also want to talk a little bit. The way this was, you delayed the hearing for 1 month. Not one of the community councils that received the notice had a meeting between those two times. We got a little bit of a break because of the weather, but our council couldn't even take a position because they didn't put it on they took a position on the timing, but they couldn't, they didn't put it on to get testimony. So they don't comment if people can't comment to them. So anyway, also one just quick point is that it is a private property, but it is an in-holding in the park. It is in the park.
Thank you. Next is John Strassenberg. If you could please spell your name for the record too.
Sure. Johnstrassenburgh. Anything else?
You're good to go. Thank you.
All right. Denali State Park is a backcountry park, a mixture of wilderness and natural areas bounded by the Susitna River on the east and Denali National Park on the west. The Chulitna River bisects the park. The park draws visitors from the lower 48, from Alaska, from abroad. They come to enjoy the world-class vistas, the quiet of the natural soundscape, hiking trails that lead through the undisturbed forest to alpine tundra. Of the roughly 102 public comments you received, I guess 100 all but one objected to the helicopters in the park. 3/4 of these comments are handouts and were not available to inform your staff report. The common theme is that helicopter use would detract from the value, character, and integrity and user enjoyment of the park. The park is a place to experience nature and escape from the noise and bustle of everyday life. The problem is not just one passing helicopter. The problem is 2 to 4 aircraft operations per hour, 8 hours a day, every day from spring to fall. This would continually disrupt the natural quiet that visitors seek. It's not possible to mitigate the noise of so many tours. Noise carries long distances. You can't escape that. One commenter said, helicopters keep the view to themselves and share the noise with everybody below. ARC would derive considerable benefit from being located within Denali State Park. Its guests would have a world-class trail system at their doorstep. But remember, this is a public park, and with benefit comes responsibility to be a good neighbor and to not detract from the quality of the user experience which is enjoyed by so many. This is a quasi-judicial case, and your decision is final. It's a weighty responsibility. Your duty per code is to assure that the conditional use will be compatible with the surrounding area and in keeping with the character and integrity of Denali State Park. This is a park, not an airport. Helicopters do not belong here. And I just want to add that zoning statutes 4121-025, zoning of private land within state parks, says DNR may adopt zoning regulations governing private property within the boundaries of state parks established under this chapter. The management plan, Denali State Park management plan, says the applicable regulations prohibit the use of helicopters in Denali State Park for commercial purposes.
Thank you. I might need a little help with this one again. I believe it's Sheilas Jordanson. Okay.
No, actually putting my name down would get me
You got a spot. If you could just spell it one more time for us.
It's Shelis. Last name is Jorgensen. So I have lived up in Talkeetna since the late 90s, and we have property in the state park, private holding, and a small cabin on Byers Creek. We also run a business in Denali State Park on Byers Lake. We do the boat rentals there and some kayak tours, and we run a backpacker shuttle in the state park for people who are hiking the ridge. I, first of all, don't want to repeat some of the things that I've already heard, but I very much agree with John and Ruth and Joe and others in regards to the helicopter thought. I have concerns about a large amount of fuel not being safe near a major waterway up there where the Chulitna River is, and what kind of things could happen if that's not managed well. I also definitely have concerns about the noise pollution. Being up on Byers Lake, the people that come up there, they want to be there because it is a quiet spot and you hear everything from the lake. So thinking about a takeoff and landing and another takeoff and another landing 16 times a day brings a lot of concern to me, and the value of the experience that we try to provide to people up in the area. I also, being at Byers Lake Campground all summer, which is where our business is, we see the traffic, and actually there's lots of times where that campground is not full. And so you guys can get those numbers from state parks about how often they're actually at capacity. Kasugi Ken definitely is full, and I would say that the cabins are full, but there is camping available in the area most days. I am worried, having seen other similar businesses try to operate in the state park with some of the same plans that haven't been successful over the years and have continually changed hands over and over, that potentially this helicopter pad gets built and that might be the only thing that actually happens. And then who's actually running those services is not even the person who's trying to develop the property. It's some other third party, business that's running tours out of the pad and hasn't been part of any of these proceedings or public comment process. And so I do have concerns about that as well. And I think if the helicopter pad part were either removed or at least put in as a late phase so that the business could prove its longevity before inserting something that has a lot of risk and also really changes the nature of the state park would be more appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else on the phone? Chat, ask. Yeah. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak that wasn't on the list? Do we have one on the phone? Rick, okay.
Hi, this is Leslie Torrance again. I made a comment about the fire rings, and I also submit
Only one time, right? Yeah.
Oh.
I'm sorry, ma'am. You can only speak one time to a resolution.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you. Okay, is there any objection to closing the public comment? Oh, there one more?
Hello.
Oh.
Hello. Hi, this is Clyde Armitstead, Clyde Armitstead, and I own the property that's in the process of being sold, and it seems to be the biggest concern is the helo pad. As far as demand and all the homework that she's been doing, meaning Yolanda, she's got some serious time in this, like 4 years or more. And I think as far as mentioning, they said something about, lights. I know that she might not have put it in her plan, but I know that she's told me it's all low impact lighting system. And yeah, the demand is definitely there for more places to park. RVers never have enough places, it seems like, when it's busy. And as far as the helos, I think Joe Richardson had a helo pad adjacent on his property to the lodge years ago. I was there 25 years now. And so as far as all the helicopter rigmarole, I just want other people to think about it. I've been there when choppers have landed, surveyors have come in, and it just depends on if they have a route. I had them land basically right next to the highway and watch them take off, and they come back and land right on the property that we're talking about. And most of the time, you could barely hear them. So all this noise. These were smaller helicopters, so I don't think they're talking about using big monster 6-passenger helicopters or something. And the littler ones there's definitely a lot of them that are quiet, so I just think that they should at least acknowledge that not all helicopters are this big noise deal, and that they're not all going to come running over the top of Casigi Campground or Byers Lake Campground. From when I watched them, they would take off and fly across the river, go right up into the mountains, and totally away from the campground. So I think if it's considered at all, they should at least have the route spelled out, where they're going to take the choppers, where they're going to, the helo pad is described. But I've been there when different helicopter operators have come in and landed while I was there, and I was surprised how quiet they were. So I just think there's a lot more that can be looked into as far as all helicopters. There could be a size engine or whatever, or muffled or whatever, is all I'm saying there.
Thank you.
So anyway, you bet.
Thank you. We have one more in line. If you're online, you can go ahead. Hey there. What's that? Oh, on their end?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you please state your name and spell it, please?
Yes.
For the record?
Yes, my name is, yes, I'll do it again. Anne, A-N-N-E, Houseel, H-O-U-S-E-A-L. I would just like to state that I would like you to strongly consider giving Talkeetna Community Council and the other community councils that were notified additional time in order to thoughtfully respond rather than the extension that was provided over the holidays. I think they deserve it. Also, the staff recommendation of approval just gives me pause, because I don't understand how you can make a staff recommendation when there were so many additional comments made tonight, and that all but one of the comments that were written in were against the conditional use permit. So I would just ask you to, this is a big deal. This is a really big deal, and it impacts a lot of people. And helicopters do make noise, and if you visit there once in a while and you don't think they're that noisy, that's totally different than being there every single day or trying to enjoy the peace and quiet on a hiking trail. So I would just ask you to please give that extension to the community councils and give some thoughtful consideration to everyone who's absolutely against the helicopters going into Denali, because I think they're going to be a bigger mess than you realize. Thank you.
Thank you. No one else? No one in the audience wishes?
Can I respond to something that Clyde said?
Don't think we can, no.
Okay.
Thank you. If there's no other audience participation and there's no objection, I will close the public hearing. Please. Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt you from closing public hearing, but at this point, the applicant usually gets 5 minutes to respond to public comments.
Okay. I'm just going by what I got here, just in order. So are you sure it's not after? Because I got Peggy following up after this, but no.
Yeah, you'd close the public hearing, then hear from both staff
okay, yeah, and
as
I'm
well
just
as,
okay, yeah,
sorry.
yeah, okay, yeah. Sorry. Close the public hearing, and we'll give staff and the applicant an opportunity to respond to anything that's been said here this evening. Nope. Peggy, no.
Forgive me. Yes. So staff recommends approval of this conditional use permit with the removal of condition number 6 due to the fact that the borough does not have the ability to regulate flight patterns or time of day of flights, as that is likely preempted by federal law. And then that's condition number 6 on bottom of page 226. And then I recommend a modification of the finding of fact at the bottom of page 221, and it would replace the word park with the word operation. And that was due to comments that came from Mr. Leidner at DNR to differentiate this operation from the state park. Also recommend modifying the second finding of fact at the top of page 222 by removing its second sentence, where it would read, whereas according to the application material, the staff will be trained to handle encounters with bears and any other wildlife in the area. And also adding an additional finding to make clear that the property is owned by an individual. It is not owned by the state. It would say, or some proposed wording for that would be, whereas according to the application material, the subject property is owned by Yolanda Doyen, a private individual, or something to that effect. And I'm open for questions.
Is there any questions? No? CJ?
Nope.
Does the applicant have anything they'd like to add?
Yeah, this is Tim Alley, the engineer for the applicant again, or applicant for the owner again. In our application, I actually mentioned the National Institute of Health, Purdue University, and FAA all indicated that helicopters produce sound about 100 decibels. I actually was corrected through the public comment process from a Mr. Penny with the FAA community outreach program for this region, in which he cited a AIOC advisory circular in which the FAA regulates the sound produced by helicopters to 65 decibels, no more than 65 decibels for residential areas, 65 to 75 for typical use, and no more than 75 unless there's extenuating circumstances. That was actually given to us in the comment, so I just wanted to clarify that. And I also wanted to mention that the Parks Highway, the FHWA, had published that interstate highways, which is what the Parks Highway is classified as, which is why we have to go to FHWA for concurrence with our permit. Interstate highways typically generate noise between 70 and 80 decibels at 50 feet from the highway. So a helicopter per FAA regulations, which we will definitely be following FAA regulations, should be generating less sound than the highway itself, and that we're 300 feet further west from the highway. Again, that's even further west, and the highway's west of Kazuchi Ken Campground, and the adjacent Byers Lake was further north, and the Curry Ridge trail system. And again, we did provide a flight path in our revised site plan showing that the helicopters coming to and from the northwest, which is the direction towards Denali, which is where the sightseeing trips would generally be going anyway. So I just wanted to clarify that. I understand that it is a point of contention. We did get a lot of comments on it. Again, though, I mean, the helicopter tours through Denali State Park are not a new thing. There's already people operating, and there's also not fixed wing flights as well. And I'll reiterate, this is a private helicopter pad. This isn't, I mean, for commercial use, but it's still private, just like the private airstrips to the south. I kind of find it interesting that, you have it sounds like a HOA sort of a setup for a strip. to the south, just to the south of this, within, it looked like it was within the park boundaries. I didn't check that, but I just, yeah, like I said, it seems to be flying to and from this area seems to be a use that's used, done by others. Maybe not a commercial aspect, but, and then again, this is 1 trip per hour. So yeah, take off and landing and then taking off once an hour, up to 8 times a day. But we don't anticipate that being the demand for this. And that made it through September every single day, every hour. We're not anticipating that. But yeah, I suppose we are asking for that as the maximum. But
Does anyone have any questions? The applicant? No. Okay, if there's no more further questions.
I make a motion for resolution 24-33.
Commissioner McCabe, I will second that motion.
Do we want to talk about changes that Peggy had mentioned? I think this is the time, or do we need to pass it, or where do we need to go, Alex, to work with some of the recommendations of Peggy there?
Yeah, so the motion has been made to approve this. So at this point, you can start amending the resolution as you see fit.
I guess for discussion amongst us, I think the removal of number 6 on page 2-26 for sure. And then I don't see any problem with changing the verbiage on the other ones. That's pretty minor. We can make those adjustments now, or do we need to approve the motion first or disapprove? We need to make a motion to amend. Okay. Can I make the motion or no?
Go ahead. I'll make a motion to amend.
So to make the amendment to make the changes to Peggy's comments on they're pretty minor, but still they're important to put in there.
You have to spell it out
in
our motion.
Yeah, so so you can do it all in one swoop. I could work with Peggy to do that, and then you can try to adopt it all in one, or you can piecemeal it. And
I feel like we could, if I think that they're all in general in nature, right? I mean, it'd be if we could, and then Peggy could help us. I mean, I'd try to write down as best I could, but yeah. What's cleanest, I guess. So.
Yeah, so I think eliminating number 6 is a little bit different in nature than the other ones. So that might be one to take separately.
Okay.
And then handle the ones dealing with the whereases.
I'm going to amend my motion. Tell me again. Okay, delete condition number 6 on page 226.
We need a second on that.
I'll second it. McCabe.
Now I can ask for, we got
discussion.
A discussion. Is there any discussion on CJ?
No, I'm in agreement of it.
Okay. There's no discussion. Is there any objection to amending the main motion on removal of condition number 6? CJ?
Nope.
Nope. Hearing and seeing none, the motion passes for the amendment. Then we need a motion to, a second motion to amend the other 3 items on there. There was removing. We can try to throw all 3 of those in one though. On this one, Alex, I think, because it's just, yeah. Let's try to throw them all in one if we can. Peggy, could you help us out with what your requests were on page 222?
I do.
And Peggy, if you could refer to like numbers in the resolution instead of the packet, out of 19 pages, is that?
Okay. Just one moment.
What do you think you've got? Okay. I think she I think
She's given us the resident instead of the page number of the resident instead of the.
Okay. It's this, the one. The 220. Word operation.
If you're ready to make those changes.
Okay. Oh,
Because we don't have.
thanks.
The resolution's not in the packet?
The page numbers.
Oh, okay.
The page numbers in the packet is up in the upper right-hand corner of the packet, but within the Word document for the resolution. Okay, so I'll do it both. How about that? So we're going, the recommendation is to modify the last condition on page 221 of your packet, and that would be page 13 of the resolution. And that would, where right now it reads, whereas according to the application material, the operation will implement a bear awareness program, and that would change the word operation, I'm sorry, it now says the word park, and it would change it to the operation will implement a bear awareness program. That's number one modification. Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. It's a finding, a whereas. So the next whereas is on the top of page 222 of your packet, which would be page 14 of the resolution. It's a second finding, second whereas. Right now it reads, according to the application material, the staff will be trained to handle encounters with bears or other wildlife in the area. And we would remove the next sentence. The staff will communicate with the state park ranger office located at Kasugi-Ken Campground regarding wildlife related matters. We would remove that sentence out of that whereas.
Then the third one will be the private property.
The third one is an addition, and it can be placed anywhere in the whereases. Adding an additional whereas, according to the application material, the subject property is owned by Yolanda Doyen, a private individual.
Can you spell the name of the person?
Capital Y-O-L-A-N-D-A, capital D, apostrophe, capital O-Y-E-N.
Is that, can you see up on the screen? Does that look correct to you?
I cannot see it on the screen.
Private.
Yes, that looks fine.
So now I'll ask for a second motion to amend these 3 items.
Commissioner McCabe, I make a motion that we replace the word park with operation on page 221 or number 13 of the resolution, where in the whereas section. And that we also remove the second sentence of the whereas from the top of page 222, which is page 14 of the resolution. And the third item I'd like to propose is that we add a whereas which says, according to the application material, the subject property is owned by Yolanda Doyen, a private individual.
And I'll second that motion.
Is there any objection to the motion, the amendment? CJ?
No objection.
Okay. The amendment passes then on there. So then we're back to the main motion. Okay. Okay, so now we just need to vote on the main motion. Or is there any discussion on the main motion? No. CJ?
No.
No discussion. Now we can vote on the, all right. Is there any objection to passing resolution 24-33 as amended? CJ?
No.
Nope. So there's no objection. Resolution 24-33 will pass as amended. I'm sorry. This leaves with the commissioner business. Is there any public or Is there any? Do we have any questions or?
As always, there is a list of upcoming agenda items. If it's quasi-judicial nature, please refrain from any fact-finding quests or ex parte contact. If there's anything legislative, happy to answer any questions you have about it.
Is there any comments, commissioners?
No.
Okay.
No comment other than happy Martin Luther King Day and happy Inauguration Day.
Commissioner Collins?
No, none. Thank you.
CJ?
Yeah, Commissioner Scoggins, thank you for sitting in today. And I look forward to seeing you all at the next meeting.
Thank you. There's no further comments, then I adjourn this meeting at 7:35.
The conference has ended. You will now be disconnected. Goodbye.
No markup, then print this out. Okay.
I need you to sign some things.
So Was this postponed to January 6th or January 20th?
It was postponed to the 6th.